My church's youth group has a youth band that leads worship during youth, but the church also has them lead worship on Sunday mornings every few weeks, to promote the youth band when the usual worship team has a week off. I'm not in the band, but I often help with lyric PowerPoints along with another girl, but not when the band plays on Sundays. The main singer of the youth band is the daughter of a youth assistant, and the daughter is an assistant too. We'll call her Emma, she's 20. I'm writing because of what happened the last time the youth band led Sunday worship on June 30th, that led to Emma and her family leaving the church. In between one of the songs, Emma said she felt led to say that Christian nationalism wasn't of God because forcing people to believe went against the basis of Christianity because God gave free will and too many Christians forgot that. She also said there would be no short and narrow path if people were forced to walk it before saying Project 2025 was advertised as Christian but resembled nothing of God because God never forced people to believe in Him. No one confronted her or anything as it was brief, and they played a few more songs along with a closing song after the pastor finished his sermon. But when we got to youth on Friday night, Emma and her mother weren't there, and we were later informed, by the youth pastor, that Emma and her mom would no longer be helping the youth before a bunch of stuff about giving others the chance to be lead singers because Emma had left the church. However, word got out from one of the band's players that Emma told the band that she got banned during the week and that her parents left the church with her, so they already knew before we found out at youth. The reason I'm making this post is because of a conversation I had with the band, another PowerPoint girl, the same Friday the youth pastor announced it, and the conversation was private from the rest of the kids. Long story short, the band is upset about what happened to Emma, and they've been throwing around ideas on what to do. The one they're heavily considering is a walkout the next time they're scheduled to play on Sunday after playing the intro song. Service opens with an intro song, before someone comes on stage to welcome everyone before worship continues, and they would voice support for Emma before walking out together. They haven't told anyone not associated with the band because they don't want anyone to spill the deets. But the main thing we're debating is repercussions from our parents and whether or not it's worth the risk. There's likely a few weeks until the band plays on Sunday again, and they still haven't decided on a new lead singer yet. I also want to add that the church didn't upload the worship portion of the service with Emma and only uploaded the sermon from that day. They always include worship on their YouTube upload of the service. Most of the concerns were around tuition punishments as some of them have their parents helping pay, but they still want to do something. And while I'm not in the band technically aside from coordinating PowerPoint lyrics occasionally, I figured the least I could do was get advice from other adults anonymously because we don't want to ask our parents for obvious reasons, and maybe others could see more pros and cons that we can. I appreciate any advice that anyone gives and will relay it to the band too. Update 1. First, the band is still going through with the walkout, and they're keeping it within the band so that no other kids tell their parents who might tell leaders. It would have been awesome to include others, but the risk of the church catching wind was too great. Second, we have a date of 8/4 when the youth band will do worship for the adults again. Third, the youth pastor appointed a singer from within the group who will take turns singing on Sundays with future participants in the coming weeks. Here's how we hope it happens. The band will play the opening song, which officially starts service, and usually lets people know it's starting. Many make their way from the foyer during the intro song, and after someone gives the welcome/prayer after the opening song, the lead singer will then give the speech before the band walks off stage, and I will walk out with them from the pews along with relatives/friends. One relative said she might bring some people she knows too, which could make more of a statement to the church to see adults leaving too. One of the relatives will also record the whole thing in case any parents don't react well to it, and I will update after it happens. If anyone has any further advice, it would be appreciated, and I'll bring it to the band. Most of the band, outside of 2 seniors, aren't old enough to vote this year, but this is a chance to stand up for what's right against something that is adamantly infusing itself into Christianity, Christian nationalism, and making Christianity lose all of its respect in our opinion. We don't expect change to happen in the church as a result of our walkout, but it's a small thing we can do to say we did our part when faced with it ourselves. Another commenter put it best when she asked if we'd be able to live with ourselves if we did nothing, and the answer has been no for us so far. I also want to add something I forgot to clarify in my first post. Emma didn't say what she did out of the blue. She had been vocal about the pastor talking politics for some time according to the band, and I've seen much of it too. However, a lot of people sent DMs disagreeing with the band's decision. So before I get into it, I want to give specifics of what the pastor has done. The pastor mentioned Trump from the pulpit numerous times, including the aftermath of the 2020 election, to voice discontent over the results. He has also celebrated Roe v. Wade's overturning from the pulpit, Pride Month during June, and even compared Trump's legal trial to how Jesus was persecuted leading up to his crucifixion. Things that have no place being vented about from the pulpit, and this has happened over the course of a few years. I received a few DMs in the aftermath of my first post, and some were encouraging while others not so much. A few people, who said they were Christians, said that Emma was wrong to use the microphone to hijack the service with her words because she should have talked to the pastor first while calling her actions immature. However, when I showed the band the advice from my posts, I also told them about the DMs, and they said that Emma spoke to a leader about the pastor's political sermons in the past. But nothing came from it as he continued to speak politics from the pulpit frequently. Some people also said that our walkout wasn't godly because we, like Emma, would be hijacking the service for a publicity stunt when church was supposed to be about God. Some people called us immature among harsher things. But we disagree for two reasons. First, who is supposed to call out the misuse of the pulpit if not people who attend the same church where it's misused? Few DMs said to do nothing and pray for God to change the pastor's heart, but he's been doing this for years. And second, the Bible gives guidance on how to call out improper behavior in the church in Matthew 18:15-17. Emma has already talked to a leader one-on-one, and the band has voiced displeasure about Emma's ban to the youth pastor, only for him to disagree and say that Emma was out of line. Regarding the part about tell it to the church, I suppose the how might be up to interpretation. Maybe telling the church means telling a church leader instead of the congregation on stage. But Emma and the band have talked to various leaders, including an elder too, aside of our youth leader, only for years of political rants from the pulpit to continue. When Jesus flipped tables in Matthew 21:12, we believe he did it because people were using the temple to sell things that had nothing to do with God, and we believe that politics falls into the same boat. Someone commented a link in the comments of my first post that I never saw. But I showed the band, and we couldn't agree with it more. Pastor Lauren Livingston talked about the role of politics in the church and how politics shouldn't be combined with Christianity, and I'll leave the link here. I still plan to speak with my parents ahead of 8/4, and I'll share the write-up the band is working on really soon. I really appreciate everyone who commented too. Lastly, I want to clarify that the walkout is the band's decision entirely. I am not a member of the band, I just do PowerPoint lyrics during youth, and I'm not even in the band's group chat with Emma. Update 2. The band decided not go through with the walkout, and Emma was a big reason why. The band told me that Emma spoke to them a few days before 8/4 after she spoke to another bandmate who voiced concern. The girl who spoke to Emma was 15 and confided in her about physical abuse fears from her parents, and Emma spoke to the band on behalf of those fears. Emma also referenced some of the fears that the senior bandmates had about losing tuition support and told them that it wasn't worth risking their futures. Emma, unlike the band, had a full-time job to support herself, but some of the band was still tied to their parents for years. She pretty much told them to go with their gut if they had fears about repercussions from their parents as the 15-year-old girl had, and the senior who feared losing tuition said that his parents threatened him with it in the past about something else, which is why he thought of it. I wasn't present when the band spoke to Emma because I'm not a member of the band. I only do PowerPoint lyrics and they tell me what songs before youth group, but they told me and the other PowerPoint girl afterward. So instead of playing on August 4th, the band collectively, and privately, resigned to the youth pastor at youth group the Friday before 8/4, and none of them played on August 4th. They also told their parents that they would before doing so, and a few of the bandmates said they were never forced to join the youth band by their parents. They simply volunteered. But that didn't mean they weren't going to say anything about Emma's treatment. They just wanted to in a safer environment that wouldn't risk embarrassing their parents in front of the congregation, which could cost them privileges instead. They decided to share their write-up with Emma, who was planning on posting her own explanation of her ban from the church. Emma posted her explanation along with the band's write-up to her socials on August 4th regarding why the band collectively resigned, and a few bandmates decided to repost it on their socials. Emma also tagged the church's social in her post and believed that the walkout would do more harm to the band than good, so the social media route was a slightly better alternative. Not as many people will see it, but we believe potential rumors and gossip might do their thing. A few of the bandmates also told their parents that they would no longer attend that specific church. And while a few of them argued with their parents, perhaps it was less than the would have been backlash of embarrassing them with a church walkout. The 15-year-old girl ended up attending church on August 4th, but the seniors didn't, although they ended up returning the following Sunday. None of them, including myself, have attended youth group since the Friday right before 8/4, and I didn't attend on August 4th either. Two unexpected things also happened. I received a DM from someone who said that they were from a Christian news outlet, and while I never heard of their outlet before, they asked permission to share the band's story in one of their newsletters anonymously, not including the band's names or the churches, and the band said they'll pray on it and weigh the decision. Additionally, a pastor reached out in DMs and said that he was encouraged by their story. He also said that pastors were supposed to hold each other accountable and asked for the name of the church so that he could reach out pastor to talk, but Emma and the band are undecided on this at the moment. They said they're going to pray on it along with how it's important to make sure it's a real pastor and that no harm will come to the church, and I told the pastor that I'll get back to him. Emma also told the band that her parents haven't talked to her much since her church statements, and that's because of arguments that they had. Some people thought that Emma's parents left the church in support of their daughter getting banned, but that wasn't the case. Her parents were banned too, and Emma said they didn't appreciate being blindsided by Emma's statement and received some backlash for them. Emma still stands by everything she said, but they aren't talking at the moment. The last thing I'll say is about me and how I feel about everything, and I'll leave the band statement from Emma's post afterward. This was the last straw in a long line of stuff for me from this particular church, but it goes further than that. I struggle to understand how parents can care more about church appearances more than the needs and desires of their kids, and I'm not talking about bad things. I'm talking about normal things, and Emma's statement said it better than I could. Emma said that God gave everyone free will, but the 15-year-old girl vented about physical abuse in regards to not wanting to go to church in the past, and that is the opposite of what God taught. God didn't force people to believe in Him, but some parents take away privileges if they refuse to fall in line with God and their church. I barely even have any friends myself, and I'm not even in the band group chat. The band told me everything secondhand, and none of them are my friends. They hang out together outside of church, but I only have one other friend from church because I've been homeschooled for all of my life because my parents think public school is too secular. I can't even do official sports aside from sports played in the church field that our homeschool group uses, so I can't do leagues or be on any teams like high school. I just wish my parents would have let me go to school, but apparently they don't think their religion is strong enough for me to go to school and supposedly not lose my faith, kinda like they've been keeping me on training wheels for 17 years. Personally, I need a break from church. I know not all churches are bad because the one I happen to grow up in is questionable, but I've decided I'm not a Christian because I said the salvation prayer when I was like 7 or 8, and I don't think that counts. You don't know what you believe at that age because all you have is heavy bias from your parents, and I need a break to be unbiased in the future after my pastor has made some questionable decisions in recent years, venting politics in the church like the people who sold things. That word of God before Jesus flipped tables. I'm going to try and learn about other religions because Christianity is all I ever knew, so I've stopped considering myself a Christian internally of late. Doesn't mean I'll never return, but I need a long break from Christianity because just thinking of modern Christians makes me sick. Too much hate disguised as Christianity and political overlap. I know there's good ones, but I have to broaden my perspective. And without a long break, I won't be able to be non-biased in my search. I've also argued with my parents about how I'll no longer attend church, but this is getting too long. Some of the band has faced punishments for not going, and that is the epitome of what's wrong with their twisted version of Christianity, so I hope a break will help me reset in some ways. The band's statement talked about how they would no longer attend the church, but I'm not sure if their parents were the reason they returned on Sunday morning after 8/4. Regardless, here is the write-up that they shared with Emma, and it's longer than what they likely would have been allowed to say before the walkout if someone cut their microphone, which is an advantage of social media, in this case update 3. Something has been bugging me recently that I need to get off my chest, and I will at the end. I have not attended church in a few weeks, and I hope I never do again. My parents aren't thrilled, and we've talked about it. They haven't forced me to come, but this situation was the last straw for me. Since my previous update, one of the senior bandmates called to see how I was, and he gave an update on what's been happening since Emma's post that featured their statement. The senior who called me, John will say, has started community college. The other senior whose parents threatened to withdraw tuition has not. That senior was punished for quitting the band. The senior who called me was not. The 15-year-old girl who replaced Emma as the lead singer was forced to return to church by her parents along with another boy who was in the band too. Emma remained in contact with the band after the post, and he briefed me on what's been happening with her. Emma encouraged the two seniors to find a new church. The senior who was punished said he wasn't interested and only attended church because his parents forced him for much of his life. He also said he wouldn't attend church in the future because he wasn't ever really religious to begin with. The senior who called me, and wrote most of the statement, said he was tired of church hypocrisy and that the situation made him never want to attend church again, instead opting to practice privately on his own. Emma was sad that the situation soured their opinion of church, but she was also not looking for a new church to take time to find herself. When John asked if I would look for a new church, I told him no, but wasn't too specific other than saying I was tired. I'm going to be more specific here because some things have really been bothering me. A lot of comments said that we gave them hope for future generations of Christianity. But just reading that pissed me off personally, and I'm gonna be more blunt than my previous posts. Personally, I hate modern Christianity in this country. I know it's not God's fault that many Christians are so hateful these days. But my distaste goes years before this incident because I feel like I never had a childhood. I'm fucking homeschooled for all my life because my parents think public school is too secular. Don't have many friends besides one, and my social skills suck because my only exposure is Sunday service and youth group twice a week. They police what I wear because of purity, and they didn't even let me do sports or anything fun that kids do growing up. But more than that, I'm scared with no one to talk to. My parents based my entire life on a religion that has no proof of its existence whatsoever. And when I tried to voice my fears in the past, they say I should know better, which is not substantial evidence. What's gonna happen when my time on earth ends if there's no God or judgment day? All of my life would have been wasted on invisible beliefs, never truly living to please something that doesn't exist. I'm honestly terrified of that. Who am I to blame one day if they were wrong? I won't be able to blame anyone because it'll be too late. That doesn't seem like a way to live life. It's already too late for me to have a childhood. I just hope someone can ease my fears until I can afford to talk to a professional, so I'll keep my DMs open for any advice despite seeing a few comments calling me and the band cowards for not doing the walkout. It hurts to see comments saying that we gave hope for future generations of Christianity because Christianity is my parents' reason for never giving me a childhood. I'm done with Christianity because of that fear. I don't have enough substantial evidence to base my life on a what-if invisible God, and I'm already 17 having barely lived at all. I want to go to college, live a little, sometimes drink, and date someone not in church because it's my last chance, before 9-5 working for the rest of my life, but I can't do that with constant guilt from purity and everything else extreme Christians try to guilt you with. Many thought I was passionate about Christianity from my last posts. But to be honest, I've hated Christianity long before this mess as a result of my distaste for homeschooling. It just felt good to be able to stick it to the church with the band's walkout idea and eventual post using their scriptures against them for a change. But by no means am I passionate about Christianity when so many people use it to control lives like mine through homeschooling, and I hate that I know so much of the Bible too. And when you add how hateful and politically infused it has become in recent years, I want nothing to do with it because I don't want to be associated with it. Now on to second story. Fiancé got furious over a prenup joke after admitting to baby trapping me when drunk, and now he's trying everything to win me back. I, 23F, made a post a couple days ago on here talking about a joke my fiancé made at Thanksgiving which concerned me. That post got taken down, locked. This is a repost/update. I, 23F, have been with my fiancé, 26 male, for 3 years. We met whilst I was on holiday and a few weeks after, he followed me on Instagram and the rest is history. We got engaged last year and a month later found out I was pregnant. We have a beautiful 6-month-old. We hosted Thanksgiving this year and my fiancé was drinking quite heavily and after dinner me and my mom were talking about the wedding, which my parents are paying for. I overheard my fiancé tell my brother who was just as drunk as him that he needed to tie me down and get me pregnant before I realized what a dickhead he was. They laughed it off but it rubbed me the wrong way because our baby was not planned. I wasn't ready for a child and we were using condoms but after a few instances where the condom broke I decided it would be safer if I got on birth control. The first month on BC I got pregnant. We were told that could happen and he said he would pull out to be safe but I still got pregnant. I was scared as but I personally didn't want to get an abortion. I 100% believe in the right to get an abortion, I just didn't want one, and so decided to keep the baby. I work for my dad's company and my fiancé works at a country club. Money wasn't necessarily why I didn't want a baby. I just wanted to do more before I started a family. I spoke to my fiancé about what he said and at first he said he didn't remember saying it, which was believable because of how drunk he was, but then he said it was just a joke and it was meant as a compliment because I'm so amazing. So I said okay good because we're getting a prenup. I was just joking but I was also wanted to see how he reacted and he was pissed. He said why the fuck would he sign a prenup that we have a baby together, a house together, and that he would not sign one, how we wouldn't need one because we're never separating, and that me mentioning a prenup is insulting and emasculating. I never felt threatened or anything like that, but he did make me uncomfortable and he woke our baby up, so I told him to leave, which he did. The day after I kicked him out he sent me a long apologetic message about how it was out of character of him to get loud, which it was. He's never acted like that before, and I replied saying I appreciate the apology but I still just need a day or two to think everything through. The next day he sent a bouquet to the apartment. Sunday he sent me a booking confirmation of a massage he booked for me at the club and offered to come over to watch our son and cook dinner. Tonight he sent me a message saying that I'm being an a-hole and that I'm taking a meaningless joke to heart and that he's wasting money he could be saving for the wedding on the hotel. But now things that went over my head before, I'm starting to think is Seuss, but breaking up my family over this doesn't seem right. Am I overthinking this / being an a-hole? Update 1. Why did the joke bother me so much? About a year ago he lost his job. He was never really clear why. For the next 3/4 months he didn't really do much. He said he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do next, and that was the first time he brought up having kids, indicating that he was ready. We had a candid conversation on my part about how I want kids, just not anytime soon. I enjoy my job, I had trips planned and I wanted to be married first. He agreed with me that we should wait 3/4 years. My dad's company got a contract at the club, which is how he got his job there. But during the time he was out of work my girls would joke that he's a stay-at-home boyfriend and that I'm the provider and he'd be a stay-at-home dad because I was paying the bills / rent by myself, which at the time didn't bother me. I used to live there by myself before we got together, so it wasn't a big deal, but I guess it was them that first made me question. TBH, I don't know how long the condoms were breaking. A lot of people are saying they've never had them break and I can't say I remember it ever happening before. I noticed the first time that it looked like it had split and then I checked it the next time that was also broken, which is when I decided to get an IUD, which he didn't want me to, but I stood my ground and we compromised and I got on the pill. I know we should have continued using condoms, but he said he'd ran out and that I'm on the pill and don't need them. In hindsight, yes, I should have insisted we still use them, but I choose not to have that battle. I thought we'd be okay. He knew my opinion on abortion and that I wouldn't get one. If I got pregnant I would raise the baby unless it was for a medical reason. Money-wise my family's successful. I work for my dad's company. I have 2 trust funds, one of which I got at 18. Before I fell pregnant I was making plans to start my own house flipping business, but I decided to put that on hold. I still work from home on flexible hours, but he said once we're married he wants me to stop working so I can focus on our kids and that he'll support us, but I've never really liked that idea, mainly because, although I've never had to worry about money, my parents always taught us the importance of financial stability, and my mom's always said to never be financially dependent on anyone. Plus my fiancé's current salary I'm not sure would cover all of our expenses. The only reason why I haven't told my dad is because they have a good relationship and I don't want to blow everything up over an overreaction on my part. Update 2. Yesterday we had a conversation about where I was at, but he said he couldn't go back to the hotel because they kicked him out for smoking in the room. He stopped smoking while I was pregnant, but he said I was stressing him out, so he had to stay at the apartment. While I was up to one of my girls in the bedroom, he came in and took the phone off me and told me to come and eat. While we was eating he said that he understood what I said and that things need to change for us to move forward. He then proceeded to list all the things I needed to do to make things better. His tone the whole conversation was just making me uneasy. I texted my dad saying that he was making me uncomfortable when he wasn't looking. I went to check on the baby, and when I came back I saw him take my keys out my purse but didn't say anything. He took my silence as agreement to everything he said and went to bed, instead of the couch like we had agreed. Like everything was normal, I stayed in the living room and my dad, bless him, drove 6 hours to come and get us. My dad got to the apartment around 5 this morning while my fiancée was still sleeping and we left. Me and my son are at my parents' house now. My fiancé's been blowing up my phone since this morning. I sent a text to him as we were driving off saying he wasn't respecting the fact that I needed space and time to just figure everything out, so he could stay in the apartment and I'll stay at my parents'. We haven't officially broken up or called the wedding off. My parents, who've paid for it, have said that they don't care if I want to call it off, but I feel bad. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who replied to my original post and private messaged me. I didn't think people would care about me. I feel like every option I have is bad. The thought of being a single mom is scary. If my fiancé's behavior gets worse, that would be shit. If we cancel the wedding and cost my parents thousands of dollars, I'll feel guilty, and if we break up altogether, we just got a house together, we're both on the mortgage, our joint accounts, and I've been with him since I was 19. Being without him for good is also scary.